Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And so, once again, as is so frequent on the channel, we have Lucy with us today. And of course, she brings a lot of very nice energy and some nice insight to the channel. So, we love that role that she plays for us here. And she's going to do that a little bit today as well. The format's going to be similar to what you become used to with us. In just a few moments here, I'll kind of relax a little bit and let DC2 come a little bit more into the forefront. So I think we're not going to chat too much before this. The a lot of times I get a feeling about kind of the theme about what might be shared, and it's going to be sort of a general theme today. In one regard, with it feels like some specifics that are associated with some things also that have happened with my life a little bit. In that they're kind of a representation of what's going to be shared. So I'll just share that with you before we get going. So we would greet you once again and once again share our deep appreciation with you for our ability to interact with all of you this way, because of course it adds so very much to our experience as well. So as and we typically, when we refer to them in our own little personal conversations, we will typically refer to the individual that you have seated in front of you now as Charles, not so much as Chuck, in a way that they are commonly known to most of their friends and acquaintances. So, as Charles expressed to you a little earlier, there's been events that have occurred in his life that only just recently, and by that we mean within the last hour, he's begun to understand is not only associated with a movement in his experience, his life, his journey, but really with everybody's. And so we'll talk a little bit about that and then we'll expand it into some other things as well. So, like perhaps many of you, Charles has felt for a while that there's a movement that's been going on in his life, that there is an increased energy, a direction of energy that's going on that he's been able to feel. And there's been a variety of outward expressions of that energy. And all of these have been change in different environments in his life. And a couple of Sundays ago, he had another change that occurred in his life. And so he followed that change, worked with that change with what it was. And it was recently, as he was contemplating the way that that came into his existence, that the idea occurred to him that this wasn't only a wave of movement of energy that was happening for him, but was happening for everybody. Now, those of you who are explorers, individuals who are explorers of yourself, explorers of the concepts of spirituality, metaphysics, whatever you would like to say, you may be at the place in your lives where you're feeling this within you. And many times you will attribute this to various things. You will attribute it perhaps to the position of the planets. You'll attribute it to various times in the seasons. You'll attribute it to other things. And of course, what it's actually about is it's actually about the movement that's happening with all of you. Now, all those other things are true as well, but they express themselves symbolically in that way, metaphorically on occasion, because they're so connected with what you're doing. But there's increased changes that are going on with all of you. You may be aware that this shift of yours began when your 1900s began. That's when all this started. And as you move from a place where life was, we'll say maybe simpler in a way, and began to head towards this direction where choice, first decade by decade, and then year by year, and now much more frequently than that, is more at your forefront than it ever was before. You'll find this to be something that's very important because more and more your existence is going to become about understanding that it is all about choice. And you will perpetually be exposed to an increasing number of choices. Now, into your existence, and again, for those of you who have explored, you know that you're in the midst of a transition period. And you've availed yourself to information by various sources out there to help you with the idea of the themes and the movements that are going on within your reality. However, more and more frequently now, you are getting the opportunities to experience what that means. It's no longer just about the words that you're hearing from other individuals. It's about how it's happening in your life. That will be a more frequent thing because you cannot know it until that occurs. You cannot begin to become familiar with it until that occurs. It will only be an idea. Now, in terms of the idea of time, for many, many, many years, and it is so prevalent that this is the way that you just believe that it is. You have held yourself to be a singular individual. You would look at your body in the mirror, you would say, yes, that is me. In this transition period of yours, you're going to understand yourself differently. You will understand that you are many yous at one time. Because this is a concept that is quite foreign to you, it's going to feel uneasy as that happens. It will not feel natural to you. It may not feel comfortable to you. It may feel fearful to you many times. However, I'd like to offer just a little bit of an analogy, a little bit of an example that may be helpful. In this moment, as you utilize your memory and you think back of yourself at various times in your life, maybe a holiday a year ago, maybe a time when you were married or a friend was married, maybe when you were in different jobs. If you could think back to perhaps the earliest age that you can consider yourself when you were in school, and maybe as you got older in school, and when you got a job when you got out of high school, or maybe when you went to college. There's all these memories that you have about all these various expressions of you. These are much more, of course, than just memories. These are yous that are actually being expressed in this moment. There's a you that's expressed right now as 5 years old. That's a you that's expressed right now as 10 years old. Then there's this vantage point at you, able to reach into what you call those memories and experience snippets of those other yous. That type of an experience from this vantage point and reaching into your memories is in one way similar to where you're headed, where there will be a you that will know itself as many yous, but it will not feel like memories. You'll understand that they are yous. You will feel them all as a part of you, and you will be able to choose the you would like to express yourself as. So this is something that, of course, is unfamiliar to you. You're used to it feeling a particular way. You're used to labeling it a particular way. You're used to considering it and believing about it in a particular way as a memory, as something that occurred in what you call the past. So as you begin to have more and more experiences where perhaps we can say the veils that have covered up the rest of who you are slowly thinned and pulled away, some of these experiences may be confusing to you. You may think, I think my mental ability is beginning to slip away from me. You may be a little fearful in that regard. You may need to hide your experiences, or you may feel you need to hide your experiences because what will my friends think about me? Who can I say this to? Can I say this to anybody? Even individuals who've explored. You may have experiences where you will question yourself about those experiences. Now, for those of you who have explored, many of you have had experiences that are uncomfortable, even though you've explored, because they stretch your idea of what reality actually is. Imagine how that will feel to individuals who have not explored, because you have all collectively chosen this movement. All of you, every one of you that express yourself on this planet have chosen this movement. There's a part of every individual that walks around the planet that knows that this is going on with them. That's part of all of that. That this expression that they have here, quote unquote, in physical reality, is going through this movement. Now, many, a certain number, will not finish that movement. They will leave the planet. They will, what you call, die, right? They will leave their physical existence. But many will continue, and they will continue in a way that's not as informed as all of you who have explored yourselves. So there will be much confusion with those individuals. They will not understand what's going on. So if you've explored these things in a deep way, you are here to whatever degree and in whatever context you would like to express it, to offer assistance, to be of aid to those individuals who are not doing this in whichever way you would like to do it. You could do it in, you could call it energy and spirit through consciousness if you would like to. In fact, you are doing it that way. Understand this as well, that any time that you make a choice in your life that validates you, that energy is shared by all of you in the collective. It goes beyond that, but we'll talk about just that. And you're supporting everybody's movement in that way as well. So there's many, many ways that you can do this. Now, of course, this is your journey, your individual journey. And so in that, again, as we spoke a little earlier, choice is going to be increasingly the idea in your life. And understanding the nature of beliefs will come into play as well. If you've done this for a long time, you're also familiar that these ideas, these things, these filters called beliefs are very much a part of how you express yourself or how your conscious energy is expressed in your experience. How you experience, maybe we'll call the reflection of your energy back to you in this experience. Some of those don't affect your choices very strongly. You may feel very comfortable going into an ice cream place and choosing a flavor of ice cream that you don't typically eat. You don't have a belief that weighs into that very heavily. You may be able to walk into your closet and put on whatever clothes that you like, and that's not a problem. However, if you get asked to dinner by a good friend and you would really maybe rather do something else that night, you might find it difficult to say no. And if you do, that would be the time to explore why do you feel difficulty in doing that. And there are many, many, many things like that. Things that can be so common to you that you miss them. But we're going to suggest to you that begin to, if you're not already, to pay attention to those times when a choice comes up and you choose something that you really don't feel like you would like to do. And then explore why you did that. Understanding yourself, understanding why you make your choices, is one of the most powerful things that you can do within this movement. Because this movement is going to bring an increasing number of choices to you as each year goes by. And so being comfortable in making choice, being comfortable in making choice for the reasons that you want to make choice. And we are going to stop and suggest you that if you're making a choice from a place where authentically it feels like that's the choice that you want to make, that choice will be supportive of everybody else around you. It will not be a choice that will not be supportive. Now, may it be challenging for some of the individuals around you? That could very well be true, but it would still be supportive. So, choice is going to be something that's going to be increasingly important in your life, and understanding why it is you make your choices. And so, we're going to pause briefly here, or maybe for a longer period of time, and see if Lucy has some direction she would like to take this in, some questions she would like to ask, or some comments that she would like to make.
Thank you. So, as you were indicating, Charles had an experience. I'll flesh that out. He was rear-ended by a vehicle, and it looks like the choices he made were to not be hurt, to not be judgmental about the person who hit him. He simply got the information necessary, got in touch with insurance company, got a new car, and he's going down the road. So all of those were choices. But is that what you're referring to when you speak to choice in that event?
What we're referring to is all choices that you make. Now, some choices are very, we'll call it maybe mundane choices. What would I like to eat for lunch today? What would I like to have for dinner today? What clothing would I like to choose to go out? That could be maybe a larger choice, but typically not real large. But then there are other choices. There are choices that you'll make about what direction you want to take in your life. Or do you want to do something that involves you in a certain group of individuals or another group of individuals? But really, even the simple choices that you are making within your home, perhaps, many times we'll make choices without an awareness of why we're making a choice. So even if you can bring your attention to why you made that choice, why did you choose to sit at your computer and do something at your computer versus sitting at your television and watching that, or perhaps going to a movie or whatever it might happen to be? Why did you make that choice? Not that it's a quote unquote earth shattering thing, but you become aware of why you made the choice. You explore yourself a little bit. You become familiar with that process of exploring yourself as you make a choice. That then will become a faster process. The information will be there available to you very rapidly. You'll know why it is that you're making that choice. You understand for yourself why you're making that choice. And it'll also help you in that to make a choice that will flow a little easier for you. Now, an individual may say, well, what about the choices that bring me into challenging situations? And we'll suggest to you that the idea of it being a challenging situation really depends on your perception of the situation when you get into it. If you understand that the situation as it shows up gives you an opportunity to view the situation, to view the choices within the situation, to perhaps be at a place where you can open up to all those various types of information that show up from self, intuition, impressions, sometimes impulses, maybe being some of the stronger ones, feeling states, to help guide you in your choices, and you learn to trust those things. Eventually, what you'll find is that you'll have no trepidation moving into what you might used to call a challenging situation, because it won't feel like that any longer. It'll feel instead like an opportunity, if that helps.
Yes, and that's what I think Charles was describing in his event. It was more opportunity than challenge,
And it's
even though
interesting. We'll speak to a short part of that to help individuals understand how things can happen in their lives. So he was in his vehicle, he was at a light, and he had chosen a particular route to take to the destination that he was going to go to. It occurred to him all of a sudden, because he was at a place where he could go one of two directions. Maybe I'll choose this other direction. So he backed up a little bit and went and took that other direction. And that in the moment felt like a more flowing choice to make. And it was on that route that he had a car accident. And so in the moment, he, of course, stopped and considered, okay, I know I made this choice. So what of this experience now, how is it going to unfold? And of course, he didn't know how it was going to unfold, but he knew how he felt when he made the choice. So that feeling told him that he needed to give the event time to unfold before he could understand really what it was about. And then as that happened, then he got to the point, which occurred a couple of days ago, where he understood much more of what that was about, how it brought changes to his life that were beneficial in his life. And it also brought him to a place, as we mentioned earlier, where as he was contemplating those chains of events, an awareness of an energy, a flow, a wave of change that was occurring, which he's experienced for a while within his life, but he realized that it wasn't only for him, that it was for everybody. And for those individuals who, again, are explorers, who have some practice in picking up the information that comes to them from self, from spirit, from the universe, whatever phrase individuals would like to use, those individuals also are probably feeling something. Now, if you are interpreting that in a way that makes you feel uneasy, it's only because you're going to bring situations into your life that may be a little different. They might be a little surprising in the moment. If you trust that your movement is moving you in the direction where things will work out for you, that may be helpful for you. And if you can stay there, and again, what Charles has come to understand in his existence is that if you can stay there in the event, the information that you need in the course of the event will flow to you. Otherwise, if the stronger emotions, shall we say, begin to fill you instead, you block the ability to hear the rest of what's being shared with you. So, depending on where everybody is with that, you're going to get practice. Now, of course, you've already been getting practice, but there's, in quotation marks, a destination that you all have here, an experience that you're all moving towards. And it's not going to be this experience. It's going to be a very different experience. It's going to be an experience that you are not used to. You will need to change. You will change. You will need to look at yourself differently. You will need to look at your connection to everybody else differently. You will need to look at your world differently. And all of that will happen. But you're not familiar with what that experience of you will be like. And so you need to have experiences that help to bring you into that familiarity. And there will be many times where it will feel much different than what you're used to existence feeling like. Knowing that this movement is going on can be helpful. Many of you, most of you, will not know how those opportunities are going to show up for you. But if you understand that they're showing up against the backdrop of you becoming more of yourself, and if you trust in yourself, if you trust in your own process, if you stay open to the communication that's always there from those deeper layers of yourself and other individuals that are there to give you help, you'll move through it just fine. There may be some hesitancy, there may be a little anxiety on occasion, all that's fine. Always be gentle with yourself and all of that. Never give yourself a difficult time because you have some struggle with your process. That's not a problem whatsoever. Just embrace your process as the process, and you're going to do just fine.
Okay, so there's this all encompassing wave of energy giving us more choices and bringing us into new states of awareness and experience where we will have more awareness of the many aspects that we are, the many yous, as you say, that you are. And do you want to say more about that? It sounds wonderful and it feels pretty good. You can actually, I can feel it now as I turn my attention within. You can feel the wave. I want to hear more about it.
In terms of time, in terms of a flow of time within that idea, a very, very, very long time ago, all of you and us, because of course we are associated with this movement because we have this expression of us here, as well as other expressions of us, began an expression of an experience. You call it Earth, this physical dimension, one of many. And all of you and us, we have, within the idea of a linear flow of time, we have experimented with what we're doing here in many, many, many different ways. We've expressed ourselves as physical beings within this experience in a number of different ways. We've tried many things. And of course, within simultaneous time, we are trying many things. Well, we'll stick with that flow of time just to make it easier right now. Then we changed the way that we approach things. Again, you changed the way that you approach things because there's an encompassing you that understands all of how this is going on as well. So the idea was to have the experience where you were largely, almost totally unaware of the rest of who you were while you had the experience. Many of you may be familiar that there are not many physical dimensions where that experience is had with the veracity that you've done it here. And so it lent itself to having a particular type of an experience. You have, perhaps we can say, grown a little bit weary of the experience, however. You've explored pretty much all that you can explore in that way now. And so you've begun the journey towards a different way of having it. Again, we mentioned that this began within what you could see physically in your 1900s. What you've seen recently in the past perhaps 3 decades or so is an increase in what you call your technology, your ability to connect, your ability to share information at increasingly rapid rates. This, of course, is a reflection of the reality of yourself. You're becoming increasingly familiar with individuals who express themselves in very, very different ways. There's many, many, many more types of jobs now than there ever were before, especially 50, 60, 70 years ago, right? Many, many more things that people do. There are many more ways of dressing. There's many more types of food that individuals are familiar with or have available to at their disposal. You can turn your television set on and watch one of 600 channels now, whatever it might happen to be. There's an increasing amount of choice around you all the time. So, what you've been doing in a more physical way is allowing yourself to become familiar with the themes that reflect the actuality of what you actually are, how you actually express yourself non physically. But as you move more deeply into this particular century, what you're going to do is you're going to begin to open the doors to that experience in the moment we'll use this term, a real way. You will know yourself increasingly as the you that you actually are, while still expressing yourself as a physical being. You will know how it is that you create your reality. You will understand the mechanisms. Just like a very well trained and seasoned chef understands exactly how to put a particular dish together. They know all the components of that, how they have to cook all the things, why they have to cook all the things, the changes that go on in the food when they do that certain ways. You will understand all the nuances of how it is that you put together your experience of physical reality. You will know it. And in that, your choice will be immense. You'll be able to choose to do whatever you want to do with your physical experience. This is something that still you are not used to. You have just come within the last 50 years, which is not a long period of time, from a place where largely individuals around you told you what your choices should be. The idea of individuals feeling like they can make their choices when they want to make their choices is something that's relatively new to all of you. It will be something that will continue to unfold for you. You will continue to understand that it's about the choice that you want to make for the reasons that you want to make them. And at the same time, to be in total acceptance of the choices that somebody else wants to make for the reasons that they want to make those choices. But you will understand the largeness, the interconnectivity, and the movements that happen within consciousness in a way that is much deeper than it is right now. And you won't be concerned with other people's choices any longer. Where now you may, because you believe there's a direct correlation between a particular choice and what is going to then happen, which is really just an artifact of your physical experience. And as you widen your awareness, you will understand that in a very real way. Just like now, if I have a glass and I drop it onto a concrete floor, my experience is that it's going to break. And that's something that you just think is normal. This expanded understanding of yourself will be normal for you. But you don't know it yet. You're moving into it. And so the experiences that you're going to have in your reality are there to help you do that. And at times, they may be confusing. Now, in one way, we would say that this journey is a journey into trusting you, thus this you and the more encompassing you, because that more encompassing you has at its fingertips all the ability and all the information that any other source that you can bring into your mind has. It's as connected to all the rest of consciousness as anything else is. So in one way, And really, in the ultimate way, that's where you should be putting your trust. That's what you should be exploring. Now, at the same time, because many of you are not still at a place where you really understand that, where you really trust that, where you really have that kind of connection yet with yourself, feel free to use whatever sources feel in the moment right to you. Because really, what you're doing is you're utilizing those sources of information to share a very similar type of information with yourself that if you could access yourself in a very immediate way, that you would be sharing with yourself anyway.
You lost me there. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
many of you are aware of the concept that you are the one that's creating your experience of reality. It's easy to forget this as you go through your day. But the things around you, the we're going to say it this way, the images of the individuals around you, the words that are spoken by those individuals, the words that you read on pages, whatever it might happen to be, that's your energy. You're expressing that for your own experience. Now, that the words that flow out of somebody's mouth may be identical to the words that are being expressed by that other expression of consciousness in their reality. It may be the same. It may be different. It could be radically different. It really just depends on what it is that the more encompassing aspect of you understands works for you to your benefit in that moment for you. So, when we say that as you access other sources, what you hear from them would be the same thing that you would hear from yourself, that's because you will access those sources and you will filter that information so that it shows up in your reality in a way that that more encompassing you would like you to hear the information because it knows from its vantage point what will be most helpful to you in that moment. Does that clarify?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm interested in this idea of coming to better know why I make the choices I make. I think for myself personally, it tends to be a simple question of which feels better, this or this. Do you recommend something a little bit more than that?
Not necessarily. Again, depending on the, again, trust that the individual has with themselves. And it doesn't always need to take a long length of time, but for some individuals, maybe it takes a little more exploration to get themselves there. But it's really just a recognition of their methodology of sharing information with themselves. In other words, that more encompassing them, that sees all the choices, that understands the movement in the life of the individual and what in that moment, and we're going to use this word, benefits them the most in their journey. And in your case, there's a feeling for that for you, and you've learned to recognize that. It can, in fact, be just that simple to understand the guidance that you're getting in each moment, because really, if you're paying attention, you do have guidance in each moment by yourself. Now, in this transition period that you're all in, within this shift in consciousness that you're all experiencing, little by little by little, or sometimes in larger steps, that's going to be much more immediate for you. Why? Because you're becoming that more encompassing you. And when we say becoming, we don't mean changing into, we mean you're remembering that that's actually you. You're having the experience that that's actually you. You're becoming increasingly aware of more of who and what you are. And so it will be more immediate. It does not need to be complicated. It really just is about having some awareness of how your communication with that more encompassing you, the you of you, sends information your way, trusting it and using it. Does not have to be complicated.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so to us, unless there's any little additional thing that pops in, we think that this is what we're going to share today with all of you. And so, again, you're heading into an experience that is much different than even at this point in time you can imagine. Your experience of yourself, and of course, we're speaking to all of you, your experience of yourself is going to be quite incredible. You will enjoy it immensely. The journey, however, from there to there, from this expression of you to that particular expression of you, may hold some challenges because there's going to be many differences. If you walk into your workplace and half of the staff are different than they were the day before, and everybody there considers the situation to be as it always was, how confusing would that be to you? If you walk to your car the next time you need to use your car and it's a different color, how confusing would that be to you? If you walked into your home and your couch is different than it was 6 hours ago and no one has been in your house, how confusing would that be to you? There are things like this that will begin to come into your reality. And rather than attempting to explain them with your physically focused mind, what some people might term your ego expression, in other words, the part of you that says that this is how things work. If you can allow things to change, to know that things are fluid, to understand that your experience of existence is showing up moment by moment by moment. And it can show up very differently in one moment from the other moment. If you can allow that, and you're going to get practice, you are going to get practice. If you can allow that, your ride will be smoother. And to the degree that you can allow that, your ride will be increasingly smoother. So we will leave you with that.
Thank you.